Pediatricians at the BVI Health Services Authority say children should have regularly scheduled visits to their pediatrician to assess their growth and development. Board-certified pediatricians Drs. Natasha Frett and Arnold Soller explained on JTV Spotlight that regular visits allow pediatricians to check whether children are developing normally.
Children are going through a dynamic process, and that is growth and development. And because of that, a number of things can go wrong, a number of things can be missed. And so this is why it is important to bring your child to the physician on a regular and a periodic basis, because you want to ensure that they can optimize their growth, optimize their ability to achieve their milestones. And so there are scheduled visits that are recommended by a number of different bodies. At the BVI HSA, as a pediatric unit, we utilize the American Academy of Pediatric Bright Future schedule. And with this schedule, what happens is that the child comes to the pediatrician and we do screenings of different developmental disorders, different physical conditions, and so forth. So they would come to the pediatrician at particular points where we know that these particular conditions might begin to manifest themselves. And so when they come, we ask a number of questions. We do, of course, a physical examination, and we get an idea as to how the child is transitioning through the different milestones and whether or not they're achieving them on time. And what that does for us is it helps us to anticipate. It also helps us to prepare the parents for what is to come, and also anticipate that if this child has a problem, where do we start getting other persons involved? For example, if the child is not walking on time, when do we get the physiotherapist involved? If the child is not speaking on time or not speaking clearly, I mean, I've heard many times some people would say, oh, but my grandfather talk late. Mm-hmm. And it's really a problem in this particular scenario. So in their minds, it's normal, and they're expecting it because they have a family relative that spoke late. But to us, it's abnormal and needs investigation. So when we're able to pick that up through the scheduled visits, then we can say, okay, all right, so this child needs some medical management. Okay, this child needs some assistance from our colleagues in speech therapy. They need hearing evaluation. So that's one of the reasons why the scheduled visits is very important for the pediatric.
Yeah.
The Ministry of Health and Social Development, along with the BVI Health Services Authority, are aggressively trying to change the general mindset of only taking children to the doctor when they need medical attention. Dr. Frett said regular visits to a pediatrician screen for medical and developmental conditions.
A pediatrician, will be using a lot of charts.
Yes.
Okay? He or she will show you the charts. Now, those who are not trained are not familiar with those charts, because those have been, this is a collection of studies, and therefore those are evidence-based charts. Mm-hmm. and you'll be able to catch as soon as possible, as early as possible, mm-hmm. Those abnormalities.
Right, because with those charts, what we really look at is trends. So it's just not bringing it to the pediatrician one time. You need several points to plot, and then with that, you're able to see how the child is tracking. And most of these charts, they have like curves, different kind of curves, and then you would see whether or not the child is going along the particular curve. And if they start dropping off the curve or moving too fast on the curve, then you start to think, what is happening with this child.
So you start to investigate.
You start
and
to
therefore
investigate.
That's why you don't shop.
Right.
Going to different doctors,
right.
because basically your pediatrician is also your primary physician, meaning
right.
for your children. And if you go to a particular pediatrician, he or she is supposed to have all those charts. And that's why Dr. Frett is saying the trends. Because if you go to different doctors, you won't find the trends. You will not see the trend.
The problem with obesity among children is an ongoing challenge here in the BVI. Dr. Soler pointed out that obesity is malnutrition and it can lead to chronic diseases. The doctors said proper nutrition must start at a very early age and recommend only breastfeeding for newborns.
It has been a long thought that if you have a big child, it's
The
a healthy
child,
child.
yeah.
Correct.
Yes.
But obesity is a malnutrition. Okay?
Yes.
It's not only because you have a low weight and then you're malnourished. But it's actually obesity is a malnutrition, and it is connected to other diseases.
Right.
You have an increased risk of having heart attack when you become an adult. There's dyslipidemia, meaning high cholesterol levels, stroke, okay, depression, bullying. So it is connected with other
Right, a lot
issues,
of
and
different
therefore
issues.
it is very important, really, that obesity should be tackled.
And one of the things we always want to emphasize is breastfeeding, right? Because within breastfeeding, it has all the nutrients that the child would need, in addition to the ability to fight off infections. So breastfeeding is one of the...
It's the best thing.
Right, is the best thing, and it's the one of the earliest nutritional advice that we would give to our parents.
There's also misconception in our area now that milk formula, the one we buy in the grocery for children, is like at par with breast milk.
Right.
That
And
is
it's
not
not-
so true.
It's not.
Because
They
you see-
cannot duplicate breast milk.
Correct.
No, no.
They try to.
They're
duplicate.
trying, they're
the
trying,
milk
they're
formula is actually, the infant formula is actually a processed cow milk.
Right.
And it's just much expensive than a cow milk, but because they're trying to remove those things, those particles that are not supposed to be there because they are really for cows. You know?
Right.
But still, if you have a child who's very allergic, even at infancy, like even at 1-2 months, the body is able to detect that small particle that's not
Right.
supposed to be there.
And
You see?
it might have an adverse effect on the child.
Correct. So, because any allergy will try to pull down the development of the child, meaning caloric use, the proper use of the calories, instead of using that for body growth, it is being used to fight off the allergies. So now you might end up with a malnourished child.
Peebles Hospital is now in the process of becoming a baby-friendly hospital, promoting breastfeeding for all newborns. Currently, there are 3 pediatricians at the BVI Health Services Authority. The public can have access to them at Peebles Hospital and the various community clinics, including on the sister islands. You can watch the entire Spotlight interview on our website, jtvlive.net, as well as Spotlight's Facebook page, Spotlight BVI.